Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined alongside Shotgun Spratling and Ryan Abraham. Today, we're going to be breaking down USC's 41-28 loss to Utah. USC now no longer controls their own destiny in the Pac-12 South. They're now tied with the Colorado and Utah for first place in the South. A lot of things have to happen for USC to get back to Levi Stadium. It's still possible, though. We're going to be talking about Clay Helton's conference call that just happened about an hour ago. Lots of injuries, especially for the quarterbacks. USC is down 2 scholarship quarterbacks now with JT Daniels and Matt Fink, both injured. And then we'll be taking your questions. I believe we are simulcasting on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We're going to be monitoring your comments, answering them. It seems like it's going to be an interesting one after a loss like the one we saw yesterday. But how are you guys doing today? What were your thoughts about the loss?
If it was an actual loss, not talking about a win that everyone feels bad about, this was actually an L. So that's different. You know, usually talk about, oh, they didn't play very well. They didn't play very well, and they didn't win the game. I'm a little tired. You know, we did our emergency podcast last night. I did a podcast earlier today with Harvey High. We've got lots of stuff. You got a lot of people want to know about what's going on with this game. Everyone we talk to, the consensus is all the coaches need to be fired. That's just what if you don't want to bear it, you know, like boil it down to one thought. That's what everyone who I've talked to said. Just fire everybody.
Yeah, it seems like that's the common refrain from USC fans. But that's kind of been their common refrain for a while. It's kind of their common refrain anytime anything is not 100% perfect. But yesterday's performance was awful.
It was, yeah.
I mean, the offensive performance in particular was probably as wretched as you can have from a USC offense.
Similar to 2016 Alabama.
Yeah, definitely. At least, I mean, there was bright spots early. I mean, even the Alabama game, at least that early drive, you know, it was like, oh, they can move the ball a little bit against them, and then things change. Whereas this one, it was like they had 2 plays in the first half. That was it.
Right.
And those were both long passes to Michael Pittman. One of them was a jump ball that never should have been thrown, probably, and it works out for a touchdown.
It probably never should have been caught. That's a testament to Michael Pittman, because that looked like an arm punt that was going to be fair caught by 2 Utah defenders, and somehow Michael Pittman still caught it for a touchdown.
And the other one was, you know, there was a screen pass designed on the right, and it looked like it was all covered up. So JT, instead of throwing it into, you know, a bunch of traffic, decided, all right, let me look back here. And Pittman was wide open because it seemed like, I don't know what you guys saw in the stadium, but it seemed like Utah's defense was all over everything. There were certain plays that were drawn up, and it was like, oh, third down, and there were certain plays that looked like they checked into the perfect defense. It seemed like they knew exactly what was coming at all times, and on that screenplay was a great example of it because USC's primary option was completely taken away. And only because JT, and to give the offensive line a little bit of credit for giving him time on this play, but only because JT was like, okay, that one's definitely not going to work. Do I have anything else? And he kind of looked back, and the entire defense had shifted to cover to the screen side, and Pittman had one-on-one, and his defender kind of got a little lazy, it looked like, and he got behind him, and that play. But it seemed like on other plays that, you know, the USC options they were looking for, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, particularly on third downs.
No catches.
JT Daniels, USC was 0 for 10 on third down opportunities with JT Daniels. He went 0 for 5 throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown in that of those 10 plays. He tried to throw to Amon-Ra 5 times. One of those was an interception. He threw the ball way behind Amon-Ra. Probably a pass he shouldn't have thrown because he's probably leading him into a defender anyway. It's going to be a really tough catch, and he's probably going to get hit. But you know, it seemed like they were keyed on Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is not a bad thing to do with the defense. But it seemed like everything that USC was trying to run, they were like, okay, that's what they're running. I don't know if USC has certain tells, had shown certain things on film, and like, okay, when this guy lines up this way, this is what they're running, or whatever it is. Utah was all over everything.
Yeah, they were. It's almost like they were coached up, Utah. You know, there's the players were told what to do, and they did it.
I mean, it could be that. It could be also be a little bit of USC tipping its pitches, where they're showing something, or USC's offense has become so bland to an extent that, you know, when they line up in certain formations, it's like, okay, that's what's coming in it.
Yeah, I did a podcast today with Harvey Hyde, and he said, you know, when they were lined up, I think it was in the pistol where if the running back's on the right side, it might be from the shotgun. The running back's on the right side, it's like they run to the left. If it's on the left side, they run to the right. He's like, that stuff he sees. I'm sure there's a lot of tendencies going on there, but you're talking about a team that we said you need to be able to sustain drives. Do you remember what happened the week before against Colorado? The flurry of huge plays in the second quarter led to the 21 points, and that's where the cushion was, and that's how USC won the game. They were not sustaining any drives in this game. So they had 13 drives. 9 of them were 3 plays or less. So 6 of them were 3 and outs. 2 were touchdowns. So that was, one after the turnover, one that was the kind of the Hail Mary-ish play to Michael Pittman, and one was that interception you mentioned. So either way, that's not a lot of time for USC to control the ball. 9 out of 13 3-play drives or less are not sustained, and then you put the defense in a pretty horrible spot.
What do you guys make of, I know we heard from both Clay Helton and T. Martin about Utah's defense showed more cover 2 than they were expecting, basically forcing USC to get their run game going, and that was something that, besides the Arizona game, USC hasn't really been able to do this season, and USC couldn't do that with 6 guys in the box. What do you think about that?
That's pretty bad. Like, it's cover 2 is like the most common defense you can probably run. So it's like, oh, they're in the most common thing ever. We didn't know what to do. But that's not the way people have played USC. They've been daring JT Daniels to beat them deep. They were stacking the line of scrimmage, and that was the excuse why the running game wasn't working. Well, this time they didn't. They dropped back. Now, maybe, like Shotgun said, USC was tipping their pitches a bit, and they kind of knew where things were going. But for the most part, and T. Martin talked about this after the game, and Keely, I know you put up the video of what T. Martin said. It seemed like he was throwing, I don't know what you think, it seemed like he was throwing the offensive line under the bus when he's saying, we can't run the ball, there's only 6 men in the box. So that's to me was a huge problem, that they weren't facing stacked boxes. They were facing 6 guys, and you had 6 blockers, and you couldn't get it done. And I think Shotgun tweeted during the game, a lot of time on the running plays, offensive linemen are like looking back at dudes they should have been blocking, and they're just not firing off the ball and just hitting people.
Yeah, a lot of times if you see at the very end of the run play, when Stephen Carr gets tackled for a 2-yard loss or whatever, you notice, if you pause it there, you notice there's like 2 linemen downfield, and they're both looking back at the play because you never see all 5 guys engage with someone. There's a 6th guy, and he comes and he makes a tackle, blitz, or whatever it may be. That's not what happens. It's someone's looking back because they didn't get their block, or they feel like they've done enough. I mean, the sack of JT Daniels when he held on the ball pretty long, they pointed out on the broadcast, said, it looked like kind of like Andrew Voorhees kind of thought, well, he's probably thrown the ball by now, right? Because I've blocked this guy for a little while, and he kind of let him. He went by him, yeah. And it seemed like he's like, okay, I've done my job so far, so now where's the ball? It should be passed by now, but it hadn't, and JT Daniels took a big hit. It just seemed like, that's been a case all season. The offensive line has not played well enough for USC to be a strong team, and it was even more evident in this game. And then Clay was asked, he not even asked, he brought it up. He said, we just got beaten one-on-ones.
Yeah, he said it wasn't about like scheme. Like we saw against Stanford, you'd have guys just not blocking anybody. Mm-hmm. This was, according to Clay, we watched the film, you had a hat on a hat, and they didn't do the technique right, whether they put their hands up, whatever, they were just getting beat. And that's one of the kind of thing, and I know, Keely, you were talking about that, and there was a frustrating quote or something from along those lines, like, it's something you can't fix in meetings, and it seems like that's what this coaching staff is trying to do all the time. Instead of, you know what, you're getting pushed around one-on-one battles, so what we're going to do is on Monday, we're going to practice in full pads and just hit people for a while. And I don't think that's, I tried to buzz in for a question on the conference call, and it didn't let me for whatever reason, but that's what I kind of wanted to ask. But we'll see if we can talk about this week, in practice. But it's not about, and I know you talk about this, Keely, it's not about going to meetings and learning, it's about doing it in practice.
Yeah, this is the thing that Dan and I kind of harp on a little bit. It's just, I didn't hear the conference call, but I saw the tweet that said that Clay Helton said with 18 to 20-year-old players, sometimes you need to reteach them. And I totally understand that. And then when it comes to tackling techniques, yeah, I get that. But if you're not tackling to begin with, of course you need to reteach. You're not practicing it every week. If you're the first time that you're going full pads, wrapping up, or at least attempting to wrap up, is on Saturday, that's you're gonna have failure the longer you go into the season. So I don't understand what Clay Helton tries to get with that if he doesn't have them actually do it. I don't know. And especially if you're talking about physical beats with the O-line, how do you get better? How do you get better physically? Playing physically, practicing physically. We've heard from Oxidric where you play like you practice. Well, I don't know. Yeah,
I think Dan was saying, or someone, I believe it was Dan, where if, you're trying to learn a golf swing and you don't go to the lesson and have them tell you what to do and then walk out of there, you got to do it, hundreds of times, and you got to keep repeating it. And we're just not seeing, it's more about, we just see this during the week, where during the week isn't the time to get better. It's like, we're going to teach you stuff during the week and then apply it during the game, which obviously that doesn't seem to be working very well.
It does not. As we alluded
Whoa, we got a
to,
lot of Periscope questions.
we have a lot of questions all over the
Holy.
board. We will get to them. Don't worry, we will answer your questions. We're just getting through the newsy items.
Give us lots of likes, whatever you're watching. Like us. And
Sure, like,
yeah.
subscribe,
Like
give
all
us
everything.
the hearts, do all those things.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier, Clay Helton on the conference call about an hour ago mentioned a whole list of injuries, but the most notable are the quarterbacks. JT Daniels has concussion, is out with concussion-like symptoms, I believe.
Concussion protocol.
Concussion protocol. And then Matt Fink actually broke 3 ribs on, I think Utah's linebacker came up and made a play, a big hit. You could see Matt Fink kind of crumple a little bit. You could kind of see the gears turning almost like, should I take myself out of this game? But he got back up, got back in it.
It's like your opportunity. Like, why?
Yeah, he went out, tough kid. He went out there and continued to play with.
I believe it was the one where he kind of scrambled and ran up the left side
And then
and really took a shot. Like,
I think it was Max Tupai, who was actually a player that USC really liked a couple years ago, but couldn't get him out of Utah. He was kind of in the middle of nowhere in Utah, and player that was kind of off the board, just didn't talk to anyone. He was kind of a player that there's a lot of kind of intrigue about because of his tape. He because of his ability to run and hit people, and that's what you saw in this game. Yeah. And he's playing, I think, as a redshirt freshman. Some of the players they're on that Utah team that USC was recruiting had some big performances against USC in that game. Him, Solomon Enos, Curtis Enos' son, who was from the same high school as Austin Jackson, had a touchdown in the game. A couple other guys as well. It seemed like those guys really wanted to play against USC, and USC didn't have any answers.
And Jay Tufele, he's from Utah. He's from right around there, a big, powerful high school. I forget what's the name.
Bingham High.
Yeah, and scoop and score, 48, 49 yards, whatever it was, and he outran dudes to the end zone. Like, that's a big man. So he was. That's pretty cool. He was pretty happy. So.
Shotgun. What are you doing over there?
He's trying to view the broadcast and.
But my main point was that USC is now down. They're down 2 scholarship quarterbacks. I tweeted this out. Imagine if Jack Sears had transferred. You're looking at USC preparing for ASU with their walk-on quarterbacks, which would just be pandemonium. So Jack Sears is now QB1 this week until one of the quarterbacks above him in the depth chart gets better, I believe. So that's pretty rough for USC.
That's obviously dire circumstances.
Yeah.
We've seen this other places where quarterbacks transfer out. So USC kind of got lucky that didn't happen. But now I got to learn, like, is it Thomas Holden or Holden Thomas? Like,
HT.
Holden Thomas, and then there was Thomas Fitz, who moved to punter. So that's another actually emergency quarterback.
He could come back.
Tyler Vaughns has been throwing out to practice. That's like your worst case scenario,
and is
I guess.
Brandon Purdue?
Purdue is a junior college transfer from up in the Valley, former colleges in the Valley.
But Fink is out. So Fink is definitely out with the 3 broken ribs. So there's this was his opportunity, and that's not going to happen. JT Daniels is not out, but he's not going to practice early. We'll find out if he gets cleared from concussion protocol later in the week, right? So that's
I'm curious about that. I mean, I know Pali didn't get hit as hard as JT did. But Pali came back pretty quick from concussion protocol. I know it's a case by case basis, but I wonder if it's your starting quarterback, do you kind of speed that process up a little bit, or do you not mess with that at all?
Yeah, and obviously we're going to see a lot of Jack Sears this week in practice, so he's going to be getting all the first team reps and walk-ons that normally, I think Shotgun had tweeted that Holden Thomas. Yes, HT hadn't been practicing. We got some response that maybe he was. I don't know, but Shotgun charts every player that's at every practice. So if he was out there, he's not like throwing with the rest of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I definitely not seen him in pads at least. He wasn't dressed on Saturday, I don't believe, as well. He's traveled for every game, even though he doesn't dress for the road games, which is kind of weird in and of itself. That they're bringing an injured player along for it, so he must, they must really appreciate his insight, I guess, for the other quarterbacks. When he's on, what he's seeing on the field and stuff as well. So that's an option behind Jack Sears. You have a couple of walk-ons there. You got Trevor Scully as another walk-on quarterback as well. You hope you don't get to that, obviously. You never want to get to a situation like Maryland had, a few years ago where they got down to their 5th string quarterback and were playing a freshman linebacker who had played quarterback in high school, so they moved him in there. So you hope nothing like that happens. But unfortunate for you, that you get 2 injuries in the same position, and USC was really close to being without a safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in that game because Talanoa Hufanga went out, and Clay said he had a back strain, I believe it was. He said that he also mentioned right after that in his conversation today that Marvell Tell played through some bumps and bruises as well. Well, Chase Williams didn't travel on the trip. And CJ Paul went in for Talanoa Hufanga. So if Marvell Tell would have got injured then, you're having to move somebody back there that has never played the position.
Or like a Jenny Harris.
You had to move a Jenny Harris or Greg Johnson or something.
Oh, but Jonathan
Lockett didn't travel as well.
Yeah.
So,
wow, you're really down.
Yeah. So they could have been in really dire situation there too. So there's some certain positions that they are, the depth has wilted for them. The safety, obviously, a lot of stuff off the field has affected that one. But because of that, you're not going to see, in my opinion, you're not going to see any changes this week in practice. They're not going to be like, well, now we got to hit. No, they're going to be like, we got way too many people hurt. You got Malik Dorton hurt on the defensive line.
It's going to go the opposite way.
Yeah, everyone in my mentions, because I tweeted USC should maybe start fully tackling. Everyone was like, well, do you want them to get hurt more? And I'm like, okay, at this point in the season, maybe not, but
I think as far as linemen go, you can run stuff on the goal line. You can try to push people. I mean, you got to do something. I mean,
I think the offensive line should be practicing against, should be going full speed pads. Even if everybody else is in shells or the spiders, as Clay Helton calls the baby pads that they have, then the offensive line maybe should still be out there in pads because they have not performed up to snuff. So I think you're definitely not going to see it on the defense side because you look at those injuries. You got Malik Dorton, who tweaked his ankle again, the same ankle he injured in the Arizona game. You had John Houston actually left the game. John Houston had a monster game.
15 tackles, led the team.
His best game probably that he's had. He had a sack as well. He was in on the sack that caused the fumble that Jay Tufele picked up. He had a wrist injury, I think is what Clay said. And then, is that what he said, Clay?
Sorry, I was reading comments.
John Houston, wrist? I believe that's what he said.
I think so.
And then,
I will check.
You had Palier Naitiote, who was coming back from concussion. Cam Smith played a couple of series, and then he went to the coaches and said, "I just don't think I'm not ready." So they respected that decision and said, "Okay, well let's get you ready for the rest of the season." So he was done. I mean, Oxford Ware left with a shoulder injury. There was just a lot of injuries.
Most of the injuries on the defensive side. So I would say I agree with you. I think you could have the offensive line, and have them play and go in full pads. Do something. I mean, I think they got to do something different, but
John Houston has a hand and rib contusion. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, and rib contusion. So he had multiple as well.
And then I believe
Christian Rector had a thigh contusion.
And Chris tweeted during the game that Marvell Tell got his shoulder and his arm checked out, his left arm. So if that's the bump and bruise that Helton's referring to.
And Rector also had a shoulder sprain as well, an AC sprain. There were about 3 or 4 AC sprains, I think, with Oxford Ware being another one. So a lot of guys banged up on that, and that's what happens at this time of the season. So that's why you have to build that depth. And they've done a better job on that on the defensive side this year. Yeah. You've seen guys like Kanai Malga came in. You saw Hunter Echols making a play in this game. You've seen those guys work their way in. Levi Jones came in for a few plays in this game. He's played some previously. So you've seen some of those guys get in there. Unfortunately, because of that, I don't think you're going to see any change in practice.
Yeah. Should we jump into questions?
Yeah.
Do we have any other topics?
They are firing the questions in. I would like to say that we are not using our normal Facebook commenting system, so I'm going to read it off straight of Facebook, and the more you comment, the less I see. So I'll probably do the most recent comments, just FYI. We did have a question from Doug, who said, what can the USC's coaches do or change at this point in the season that will actually have an impact on the course of the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fairly common question. I don't think they're going to do much. I mean, there seems to be little tweaks and stuff there, but I do feel you could go into practice and change things up. If you don't feel like they're being physical enough, if you don't feel like they're winning one-on-one battles, then do something different. I think you get into a routine. We've talked about this numerous times. Monday, it's normally some sort of like walkthrough kind of thing. It's like change of plans. It's full pads. Maybe it's an hour. I don't care. Whatever, you do something that they're normally not doing on Monday and do that. I think that's something that you can do. I mean, they could move stuff around if you want to. Duties of coaches. I think Clay Helton needs to do something different. He gets so tied to a routine, a plan that was set in July or August. They're just going to follow it throughout the year, no matter what happens. Even though every game is a whole different. It's like a whole different world going on. It seems like the plan is just, this is what they planned from the summer, and that's where you're going through. So, to me, just changing something up, I don't think they will, but I think that's what you have to do. I don't know if you feel.
You could try something different. I mean, that would be a step. I mean, that's something they have not done.
Yeah.
They've just continued with the routine. They'll make game plan changes. Well, your game plan didn't work at all. Now, Clay did not say that though. It wasn't busted assignments. It was just getting beat one-on-one. So he didn't really say that the game plan there was an issue there.
Right.
Obviously, there was. USC couldn't do anything, and even when JT had time, there was not open receivers. Like I said, it seemed like Utah was in the huddle getting a play call too, or looking over to the sideline, like, oh yeah, okay, we'll play this defense for that. Like they knew their signals. Sign stealing is a part of sports as well. You remember Oregon breaking out the cape against Todd Graham, to try to keep him, because Todd Graham was really good at reading the signals from the other side and then making adjustments on the fly. But also, since I've mentioned Todd Graham has been mentioned several times on YouTube as a coach USC should go after.
In all caps, too.
That's the worst part about this stuff is the horrible, horrible suggestions people make. No.
Now, Ty Graham, I've heard a lot of negative things about him from players that used to play for him and people around the Arizona State organization after he left. So I know some people are saying he's a disciplinarian. That's part of the reason why people didn't like him, because of how disciplinarian he was. Richard Perez asks, is there any rumors on coaches interested in the USC job?
Oh my goodness.
No, because there is no USC job opening.
Yeah.
Once we get a USC job opening, then we'll discuss that. Until then, not answering any of those questions. Just go ahead and get it out of the way now, so that I can ignore all the rest of your questions.
Yeah, Shotgun doesn't play that game.
No.
We have an interesting question from Sean. He says, why did USC look so good on offense when Clay Helton was calling the plays in the Las Vegas Bowl after he took over for, he said Sark, but that was actually when Coach O got fired. He was the interim. Was he using Sark / Kiffin plays?
I think that is, you have a new play caller. There's no tendencies yet as far as, is the defense being able to read it. Whereas now you've got 3 years or 4 years of tape on this group, and, maybe their tendencies are too obvious now. If that was the case with the Utah, I mean, the way that they played defense, it seemed like they knew what was coming. That's a tendency type of thing.
Yeah, and I think play calling is not this magical fixer of everything. If you have a horrible playbook, it doesn't matter who your play caller is. Mike Leach calls out of an awful playbook, the plays are going to be awful, so it doesn't matter. That was a different designed offense. This is now one under Clay Helton's, tenure, and one with T. Martin. And who's the main architect? I don't think T. Martin's like the creator of this offense. I think this is mostly from what Clay learned from Kiffin and Sark, which one of the fundamental reasons why you don't want to hire someone that's you can hire an assistant, but you want to hire a super successful assistant under super successful head coaches, and that's not what Clay Helton was. So to expect like there's going to be some crazy offense, they got awesome players, but I don't think there's some guru designed offense. And to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, people say fire T. Martin. I'm like, I don't think that's going to matter. That to me, that you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic for that.
Yeah. Eric says, is this staff poor at self-scouting their weaknesses?
I would think
they're not strong at it. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the defensive side of the ball, that you see a plan, you see things that are happening. There seems to be more of an effort and a plan of going forward. Like, here's what we're going to try to do. I think Clancy Pendergast is playing chess out there sometimes and figuring out stuff to do. It doesn't always work, but I think there's always this plan. I think on the offensive side, it looks more like, I don't know if they know what they're doing sometimes. I don't get that feeling on the defensive side. Yeah, there's some bad games and some bad plays or quarters or whatever, but on the offensive side, it just doesn't seem like it's this well-oiled machine at all. A lot of times it looks like people are lost and just don't know what to do, and someone else is hoping someone else fixes something instead of, we're all on the same page, here's the goal, and we're all going to go at it together. It seems like there's a lot of individuals that are like going towards it, maybe, but not necessarily in this tight group.
Yeah, they don't have the cohesiveness that you
No.
Tina says, why does it seem that all the teams in the SEC seem better and harder than the Pac-12?
It's a better conference.
And that's probably the games you're watching. I mean, you look at like some of those Mississippi State and Ole Miss games.
Yeah.
Those can be very bad. Kentucky before the season, those can be Vandy. There's some bad teams in the SEC. This year is the bottom half is a little bit better, but the last couple of years, the bottom half of the SEC has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Missouri has not been good, even though they have a quarterback that's supposed to be a potential first-round guy. When you have a first-round quarterback, usually your team's really good.
Yeah.
That's not been the case.
That's a different animal. It's almost like a different sport where they care about football. The Pac-12 doesn't really care about football. The SEC only plays 8 conference games. You can go 2-6 in conference in the SEC and go to a bowl, and a lot of them do because they go 2-6 and they go 4-0 and they're out of conference, and then they go. So it's kind of everybody's a little bit, you get some inflated rankings, all that stuff. There are 4 SEC teams in the top 10 right now. So yes, I think that's that's a different sport. Like you want to compare the SEC to the Pac-12. Pac-12 doesn't take it anywhere near as seriously as the SEC does.
I'm gonna do one more Facebook question, then Ryan get some Periscope questions.
Okay.
I know they're popping over there. Jorge says, "Do you guys feel that Clay is feeling the heat? How is his demeanor?" I thought Clay Helton was quick to take a lot of responsibility for this loss,
Definitely.
more so than I think any other loss this season. He said it's our job to prepare the players, and they didn't do that well, and he didn't want to put any of the blame on the players. So he definitely took a lot of credit for the loss, if you take credit for loss. But so that stood out to me. But I don't think his demeanor really changed, other than that he was more serious. Of course, in a loss, you're going to be more serious and not joke around as much. But I think it was pretty much the same.
It was like he said it's on me, but there wasn't like, I think there's a way to say, hey, this is my fault. Here's what's gonna, this is stopping. Like it's my fault, and here's what we're doing. There was no here's what we're doing. This is my fault. So do what we do again, but just do it a little bit better, as opposed to, you know what? I've really reconsidered this whole thing. I'm not going to hire my friends anymore. I'm not going to like. There's no like mea culpa or something like that. He took the blame, but there was no like. Now I realize we're going to tackle in practice, or nothing like that. So I don't. It's nice that he would say this is my fault, but I don't think. And I like we've been saying, I don't think anything's going to change.
There was no tangibles. I mean, both Michael Pittman and Clay Helton said that the run game, fixing that, will be a priority this week in practice. But when asked how, there wasn't really anything specific. I mean, granted, they're coming up with that on the spot, but it just is more of the same. There's no tangibles of how you actually will make a change.
We have
what question did he not answer during the conference call?
Oh, so he was asked, I think it was Antonio, asked him about evaluating his staff and their game plan, and then he just went into well, we always evaluate, so there wasn't anything like, yeah, I looked at it and I think this coach sucks, or there's nothing like that. He just talked about what you're going to do evaluation-wise, so he wasn't going to reveal anything. Always Summer on Periscope said, is there an up-and-coming Porter Gustin, since he was a playmaker? I think you saw Christian Rector back, who had 0 sacks coming into this game, and now that Gustin's out, he played that role, I think, a bunch of times. 2 sacks, and I think 3.5 tackles for loss. So,
and he had a couple more opportunities too, where he kind of slipped away late in the first half. He's pretty winded. It seemed like they had run. I think Utah ran 20-something more plays in the first half than USC. I don't know if that number is correct. I'll have to check later when I rewatch the game. But you could tell that they were winning towards that last drive. USC even called a timeout to try to catch their breath a little bit. But he had a couple more opportunities there. Shows how well he was getting in the backfield in that game. USC had 5 sacks in the game. That was one of the things they wanted to do, put some pressure on Tyler Huntley. They did that early. It seemed they faded, though.
He still had the game of his life. He's still at 320-something yards or whatever, Someone
pointed out a very good point. When you go to Utah, you're playing at altitude, too.
Yes.
And, when you're on the field all the time because your offense is going 3 plays or under, 9 of the 13 times you said?
9 of the 13 times, 3-play drives, yeah.
So if you're doing that, defense has no time to rest. Your safeties have nobody to come in for them. Your inside linebackers basically have no one to come in for them. Like, those guys are on the field all the time. I think some guys played 80-something plays on defense. That's a lot of plays. And then when you're playing altitude, it has its effect even more. So I think you saw how the defense kind of waned later in the game and later in the halves of both halves. You saw that they just were not the same as they were earlier in the halves when they were playing really well.
Yeah,
sorry. I was supposed to say a fun little anecdote about the altitude. So USC's coaches came down on the elevator across the stadium, and then the USC's locker room was on the other side. So they had to come down and then basically do like a 200-yard sprint to the locker room. They had about 8 minutes to get in there and make adjustments and then run back. And T and Drevno were trying to run, and they were like, the dang altitude, and they were so tired. So it was a funny little moment.
And Pellier Naoteote told me after, that, altitude was an issue. I think it was like a drive in the second quarter, like Huntley, they were trying to chase after him on a longer drive, and it just, you get tired. So we had Play Dirty 5110. Why don't you guys ask Clay Helton press conference practice questions during the press conference? I'm sorry, Helton practice questions. Yeah, no, I mean, Dan Weber was the first person on the press conference asking today. I tried to get in there and ask him something specific. We asked stuff during the week, whoever's there.
I mean, I asked T. Martin, would it benefit the offense to go one-on-one more on offense defense, and he said we do that, which I don't know how much they do that. So it's just like you kind of just get coach speak when you ask them.
Yeah. It's not, and I think some people want us to be like, it's not, a few good men and we just get on this like, you can't handle the truth. Like, we can't do that. Like, you ask the question and the people are like, well, you might have got to make them. Like, no, that's not how this works.
Break down and be like, I'll tell you the truth.
You're so right. We are terrible. And like, no, there's not going to be some epiphany moment that where you just like nail them to the wall. Like, it's not.
Maybe we should just start Perry Mason. You just ask everything twice.
Or
is it Columbo? Wait, which one is it?
One of those.
We'll do some more Facebook questions, and then we'll get to our friends on YouTube. I know they want to get the question love, so Shotgun, be ready. Chris says, do you see us possibly losing to ASU? Since the theme seems to be us getting outcoached, I could definitely see us getting smacked at the hands of Herm Edwards.
They could. I mean, Arizona State has some playmakers. I don't think Arizona State's great in the trenches. I mean, to note, Roy Hemsley went over there, and Roy Hemsley's now starting. Roy Hemsley couldn't really crack the lineup here, and this offensive line is not very good now. Maybe that's just a pure evaluation, but he's actually gotten the mix there and has started a couple games with them. So I just don't think that Arizona's not known, the state of Arizona recruiting-wise is not known for producing terrific offensive linemen at all times. So I don't think that they're really good in the trenches necessarily, but they're good.
Is that shut it off to Jackson, or what's the...
No, I'm just overall they're not.
Right.
He has not played very well this season. But I think their best playmakers are the guys on the outside. N'Keal Harry, obviously, Manny Wilkins being a veteran quarterback. That's something that should really concern USC. And Eno Benjamin is a dude.
He can
running back. He's an All-American, high school All-American. So I think their best players are the skill players, not necessarily in the trenches.
Yeah, we'll see. It's. Manny Wilkins. What was the last game they played? I mean, he did not play well. Arizona State's last game, I forget, but that's one of those things where you see the quarterback not play well, and he's going to bounce back because he's a really good quarterback. So that's a team to me. It's Herm Edwards' team. It's like a 8-8 NFL team sort of thing.
They lost to Stanford on Thursday.
Yeah, they lost to Stanford, but Wilkins didn't play well at all, and they could have.
They had opportunities in that game, definitely.
They did. So I think you might see a better Manny Wilkins coming back in this one. And it's just, they're going to be a team that's close with you no matter what. And it's going to be up to USC to make some of those plays at the end. Arizona State so far hasn't been one of those teams that they get close and they don't make the plays at the end. At Washington, Stanford, whoever, they've not been able to get over the top and win those games. So if you slip up and screw up at the end of the game, that could give Arizona State an opportunity. So and obviously without your starting quarterback potentially, I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah, expect a close game. I mean, Arizona State has won 16-13 over Michigan State. They've lost to San Diego State by a touchdown, lost to Washington by a touchdown, lost to Colorado by a touchdown, lost to Stanford by a touchdown.
Yeah.
So
they're one-possession games the whole year, yeah. It's an NFL team.
Is the spread seven points?
I don't know.
It should be 7 points then after that.
Shotgun, some YouTube love? What you got?
Let's see. We got... does Jack Sears intend to play less than 4 games and transfer? From what we've heard, Jack Sears does not have any intentions of transferring at this moment. Now, if he comes out and he goes off for 300 yards or something and balls out, and then they stick him back at third on the depth chart, then yeah, maybe he says, he gets some love from people hitting him up in his DMs, like, hey, we got a quarterback opening if you're free. So,
it's in vogue to transfer, and so yeah, a good performance by Jack Sears could be good for USC or could be bad for USC. We'll see.
Someone asked about a Janae Harris. Said he's very hit or miss. He either makes a great play or he gets his ankles broken. It's been like that for a long time. He's a liability or USC's best defender. What do you guys think?
Well, first off, props to and respect to Janae Harris. His dad actually passed away on Friday morning. He still elected to go on the trip and play for USC. That's something that's
he got on a plane a couple hours later.
So respect to Janae. That's really hard, and he's probably going through a lot. So before I just preface that, now go.
No, and I think Clay Helton said, it's one of his favorite players on the team, and I don't think he's. I like the way he plays, and he's out there balling all the time. I mean, he's a guy that's moved around and done all the. He's a player that you'd want on your team all the time. So yeah, I like Jenny a lot.
Yeah, one of the team's favorite players. The coaches love him. The players in the locker room love him. The thing he has to do better is stop tackling high. So part of that, the one he missed, the guy, he was going for a pass breakup, and some people were trying to blame him for, missing the tackle. He went for the pass breakup, and, he had his other arm around the guy, so it looked like he was trying to tackle him. That wasn't exactly the case. He did miss a couple tackles, but usually for him, the issue is trying to tackle high. Now, part of that is, as DB, you're trying to knock the hands down and stuff like that, but when they make the catch, he has to go low because he's not a big dude to begin with. So that's one thing that he has to do a little bit better. But, he was phenomenal in the Colorado game. He was everywhere in the Colorado game. Not even to mention the pick six.
Yeah,
he was really good in that game. And then Utah, he missed a couple tackles. That was something that hurt USC. But besides that, I thought he played well. And Clay even mentioned him. Playing after his father's death, but he came out and played really well as well. Besides the missed tackles.
He's also a quiet glue guy for the defense. During TV timeouts and stuff like that, he'll go around and high five everyone and kind of give encouragement to maybe some of the younger players. So he's a guy who kind of glues the team together, has that momentum when you have guys like Porter and Cam who are more of the in the spotlight glue guys. But
yeah, defensive scored two weeks in a row. So that's pretty.
That's true.
The offense needs to get something going.
And I noticed on the broadcast, and I pointed out, USC has a turnover gimmick like everybody else. They don't have a turnover chain or a turnover folding chair like I think Indiana had or somebody had, but they had a turnover robe, which is fitting for the Trojans. It was pretty cool.
Turnover robe.
Yeah, like an emperor's robe.
It looked like a blanket from my point of view.
It looked like a robe. It was a pretty sweet robe.
All right. I didn't even see it. We were like, we didn't see it up in the press box or anything.
But I think it points out something more that we have not seen it this season.
Not very much.
True.
Because a couple of turnovers they've got, like the pick six, it was like, okay, Danny, get back out there. You don't get time to sit on the bench. You're immediately back on the field.
We have a question from Daniel who says, guys, it seems like the hard-hitting, kick-their-butt attitude isn't there. Is that how you see it? I place a lot of value on a coach being able to set the tone.
Yeah, I think the personality is coming down. It comes from the top, the identity of a team, all of that. And you don't get the feeling that that's what this team is all about. I think you have individuals that are doing some crazy things. You see when Pellier, Deontay got in there for the first time and just flying all over the field and crushing people, like that's him, But is that something that's coming from the top? No, I don't think this is a team that has a killer instinct right now. And I think once you struggle, if you've ever been in a team sport, a lot of times if the team is struggling, you kind of have to look at your individual stuff. Like if Shotgun's pitching and people are like muffing balls behind them and stuff, booting balls all over the place, it's like you kind of have to just focus on what you do. And then you end up getting a lot of people that just are doing like, hey, I'm going to try to do my best, but it's not working. It's not cohesive like Shotgun was saying before. So I think once you're seeing adversity, and we're seeing it a lot, even when they win, it's just not like this well-oiled machine, like I said. So I think you just end up having a lot of individuals doing their individual things, and it's not together. Football's the ultimate team sport. If you have a bunch of guys playing individually, not that it's not their fault. It's like when other people are screwing up, you kind of just do what you can do. But that's just, it's not going to be a great result for the team if you're not playing like a team, you're playing like a bunch of individuals.
The thing is, Clay Helton wants that attitude. He wants to be run first. He wants to be tough in the trenches. But if you don't practice that way, you're not going to play that way.
Yeah. You can't just say it in a meeting. Like you can't. He was going to fix the penalty problems. They fixed them, I guess. Only 2 penalties in this game. But This was a game where there just wasn't a lot of flags. Pac-12 that does that. Like some games are just like there's not a lot of flags, and sometimes it's just like a flag fest. So I wouldn't say that's what Utah or USC did.
You never see USC with like 2 flags and the other team with 10 flags.
Yeah, no,
that never see that.
No, it's just going to be no one has a lot of flags or everybody has a lot of flags. But that's something he said. Hey, we're going to fix that in the meeting. And at some point you have to fix it in real life. You have to fix it when if the guy gets handsy in practice, then you're out or whatever it is. So yeah. Let's move on. We can't say the same thing like 50 times. Sorry.
Jay has a question about the leadership council. This was something that was spoken a lot during fall camp. Cam Smith kind of created this idea with Clay Helton about the seniors, the veteran guys of the team would start this leadership council and would have meetings every week, and whoever wanted to come could come, and that's how they kind of organized this team and tried to get them on a track, a national championship track. Well, now that they're 4-3, what's happening with the Leadership Council. We haven't heard much about the Leadership Council at this point.
I haven't heard anything about it. Have you guys heard anything about it?
Nope.
Maybe we can
Worth
ask this
asking
week.
about. Like,
Yeah.
do you still do that?
That's still a thing.
Well, everybody on the leadership council is injured.
Marvel Tell is not.
He's got bumps and bruises, apparently.
Hey, but he's not like a Porter Gustin status.
So they're probably all, maybe they're meeting in the
rehab.
training room. Yeah.
Rehab Island is the new Leadership Council. We have a question from Richard who says, is Sears ready to play since he has been hasn't played at all so far this season, or will USC try to make sure that JT will play on Saturday?
My guess is they try to make sure JT will play on Saturday. And actually, P_Luke on Periscope said the 4 games don't matter for Sears because he already redshirted.
That's a great point.
So, yeah, so that's true. My guess is if there's any chance at all that JT Daniels can play, he will. Because, Jack Sears, with both of those guys, he's just not getting a lot of reps when you're talking about the team reps and stuff. So it's going to be immersion. That's what I mean. He's just going to get in there and try to learn Spanish in a week. Just try to get in there and just be immersed in it. So that's what they're going to have to do with him. I don't know if they're going to do extra stuff after practice. They're going to do longer things, but they need to get him up to speed because he's not had, starting reps since probably 2 weeks and or a week or two left of fall camp.
Yeah, it's going to be different for him this week, trying to get ready. And
he was out for a while too, right?
He missed a couple practices. The question will be, if he becomes the guy, if he's the guy that has to start this week, how much do they try to change the offense to suit his skill set? Because he can run a little bit more than JT Daniels, not as much as Matt Fink, but if you run him, you risk the injury potential there. So, how much do they change the game plan to fit his skill set? I mean, that's what you would expect, but... Man.
I think they should call plays like they do for Matt Fink, because when Matt Fink's in, it seems like they call plays to try to help him. I think they'll do something similar to Jack Sears. Now, maybe there's not going to be design runs because of what you were saying. He can do it, though. He's fast. I mean, he can run, but they might want to protect him. I just wish they would do something like that for JT Daniels, because it just doesn't seem that that's there. It's more of huck it up to your 5-star wide receivers and try to win us the game.
We have a question from Justin who says, I'm all for the idea of hitting in pads more often during the week, but does that equate to more injuries and soreness come game day?
Whereas Trek Ranger said, the touch practices are a direct effect of so many injuries. Bodies need to get used to that contact. What do you think?
That's fair too. I think at some point, what are you going to be healthy for if you're not playing well in the game? I think you have to, if the way to play better is to be more physical in practice, if that's the theory, if that's what you feel, I mean, I think we all feel that's the smart thing to do. That's obviously not what the coaches feel. Then I think that's a risk you have to be willing to take, because even if you're healthy going into, you're getting injuries anyway, even if you're healthy going into the week, you're not going to play physical. So if you get through the week of practice and you're playing physical, practicing physical, and it allows you to play physical on Saturday, I think that's worth it.
True. Hugh says, Ryan, I remember Gerard saying that the only way that recruiting gets hurt is if USC doesn't just lose but get blown out. Do you think that's starting to trend that way?
So John Wilner pointed this out as far as, recruits they're not following it as closely as the fans and stuff. I mean, it's a recruit's mind, it's different. It's like, what can the school do for me? What are the opportunities going to be? It's completely different. But if you look at what USC was able to do under Clay Helton when Sam Darnold was not the starting quarterback, they are now 3-10 against the Power 5. They've won 3 of 10. They're 3-7 against the Power 5. So with no Sam Darnold at quarterback, if you play a Power 5 opponent, Clay Helton's won 3 and lost 7, and 6 of those 7 have been by double digits. So that is starting to be a trend. We've seen this happen. So yeah, I think you start getting blown out like that. If it's another blowout loss to Notre Dame, I think you can impact recruiting. I think the biggest impact on recruiting right now, though, is the state of the coaching staff, because wherever you go on Twitter, that's all anyone's talking about. So that's something that the coaches have to address with players, with the prospects, because they're going to hey, I saw on Twitter that you're going to get fired and stuff. So that's something that you're going to have to talk about. So I think that would be more important right now than, obviously losing big games too, but it's kind of all piled in together.
I think you know everything you need to know about this coaching staff. I said it last night on Twitter.
Yeah, let's actually get into that. So Shotgun had a tweet, I think it was right after halftime, I believe?
Throwing on the bus?
Something like that.
No, but it got pretty popular. It took off a little bit. Shotgun said, after a game like this, you know everything you need to know about USC winning a national championship under this coaching staff. There's no dispute that is not possible with this current group. Now, the question becomes, is that what is really desired by the current administration? Shotgun, you have the floor.
I mean, I think that says it all, because this group is not going to win a national championship. I mean, you would have to take leaps and bounds of each coach, basically. What you saw, a national championship team does not just get absolutely dominated. Even a game like Ohio State lost to Purdue last night, they lost by 29 points, I think. That's much worse than USC's, but USC's was just a complete beatdown. When you can't do anything offensively, that's when you, and it's not that it's just this game. It happened against Texas. It happened against Stanford.
Yeah.
Your offense has done absolutely nothing. And then you could say it's a freshman quarterback. Well, that freshman quarterback's the best high school quarterback I've ever seen. And he's throwing to, the slot receiver he's throwing to is the best wide receiver I've ever seen in high school. So between those two, that's pretty good talent. It's not like you're just throwing in, you don't have a walk-on in there, and it's like, well, we just can't do anything because he can't make the throws. Your coaching staff is not putting people in the right position. Whether it is, the fact that you're getting beat with every one-on-one. Well, that's somebody's fault. Is it the players? Is there no talent on this team? I know some people have asked that. Curtis Miller, I think, asked that. Is it possible that these 4 and 5 stars just aren't as good as everyone thinks?
No. 2
of the ones I just mentioned are the best I've seen in high school. I've seen a little bit of high school. I haven't seen as much as Gerard Martinez, but I've seen a pretty good amount of high school games. But this team, there is talent there. You see catches made in practice, and you're like, wow, that's an amazing catch. You see certain things, wow, that's really great. You don't go, the time when you go, that was a really good play call, was when Matt Fink came in and they motion out Stephen Carr, they fake it to the fullback, which was Vi, and then they throw a little pop pass over the tight end, something completely different than anything else they've shown, and you go, oh, that was a really nice play
That was
design.
like the best play call they had.
And you see it every once in a while, but you rarely ever see the case where USC just has that guy that's running wide open and nobody's around him. And you're just like, wow, that was a great play design. They really fooled them there. No, that doesn't happen.
No.
When USC tries to run a reverse to Velus Jones, the quarterback can't make a block because there's somebody there already, and he has to try to cut it back inside, and he loses 2 yards. Like that, it just seems like, with this coaching staff, it just doesn't seem like this team has the potential of winning a national championship.
No, agree 100%. And just on the talent side, I put a story up a couple weeks ago where 24/7 Sports does their talent composite. Basically, looks at the roster, who are the guys that are on the roster, and where were they ranked in the recruiting rankings, 4 and 5 star guys. So USC has 52 former 4 and 5 star guys in the roster. Utah has 7. So Colorado had 6. So there's a huge difference between that. And you're like, oh, well, they're overrated. Well, no, look, USC's 4th in the nation as far as that ranking systems go. The 3 teams above them are Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama, and they all win a crap load of games. So it's not the outlier is USC. They have a lot of talent like these other teams, but those other teams are ranked in the top 10, and USC is unranked.
So the last couple of games have proven, if it wasn't already known, this coaching staff's not going to win the national championship. Yeah. There's talent on the team, and they're not anywhere close right now. So it's not like, you get one other player next year, you get a 5-star quarterback or whatever it may be, it's not going to change everything. So now the question becomes, does the administration care? Is that a priority? Is winning a national championship in football a priority? It used to be a priority at USC. That you go out, you find the best coach, or whatever it may be. You pay the coaches to stay, that type of thing. With assistant coaches, you give them a lot of that. You don't necessarily see that. There's been a lot of budget buys, I would say, to an extent. And when Clay Helton was hired, he might have been the guy that they probably needed in the room, as you like to say, they needed an adult in the room. However, USC is not a place where you're supposed to learn on the job.
Right.
And Clay Helton had not been a head coach before. He had not been, a highly successful coordinator. That's not the type of hire that USC should be.
Under like a highly successful head coach,
Yeah, and you haven't seen, USC didn't make the big, splash attempt. It didn't seem, from the looks of it, from the outside looking in at their search. They paid a lot of money for a firm to go search the national search.
The guy that was already in the building is what we found, yeah.
So from looking at it that way, the administration it doesn't appear that that's a priority to them.
Yeah, and right now there's a leadership void. USC has no president, obviously, interim president, and the same national search that you paid for the athletic director, they found someone that no other college in the country would have hired as their athletic director. They hire him because he played football at USC, so that's basically it.
We've had multiple questions about Lynn Swann. Where is he in this process? Do we know his tendency? I mean, we said it 1,000 times. Clay Helton is not Lynn Swann's hire. Lynn Swann was at the game on Saturday, so
Wearing a funky outfit.
yeah, he had like an Argyle vest on. It was interesting.
Yeah. I think he's not going to say anything. He's just not someone that says anything. So he won't say anything, or he'll just backlight. There's no issues there. I don't feel anything's going to happen until the end of the season. But there's no question that he's hearing it.
Yes.
But, this is why you want to hire an athletic director who's been a college administrator before. I mean, Mike Garrett was a former player, but he was working in the administration when they hired him. So he was part of the staff. The last two guys, Pat Hayden and Lynn Swann, the only qualifications they have is they're former players. They don't have it, and that's, to me, a huge flaw in this whole system, the whole USC leadership system, is they're keeping their little fiefdoms all in place. Because if you hired somebody from outside who was a standing athletic director somewhere else, which obviously USC could do that fairly easily, they would come in and look at how things are run and go, what the heck are you guys doing? Change this, change that. And I don't think the people at USC really want to do that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's what's important to them right now. It's kind of like, your tooth is hurting, but I don't want to go to the dentist because I don't want to find out I have a cavity, So that's kind of what USC is doing. They're just like, no, don't bring in someone from the outside who's really successful, because they're going to tell us we're doing stuff wrong, because you are doing stuff wrong.
True. We have about 8 minutes left on the show.
Okay.
If you want to give your rapid fire questions in, we will answer them. I know you guys are very feisty with your comments. I'm reading them, but not a lot of questions. So get those in. Shotgun, how's you two doing?
Why does USC's offense seem so slow?
That's a good point. And Harvey Hyde brought this up today, where it's not like plays are like, it doesn't look like they even have the play early. It's like they're everything's just sort of late. And I don't know if it's just the way it's all done, but it does seem like there's like it's not crisp. It's not like everyone knows what they're doing. Like, you got Gardner Minshew coming in from, just coming in this summer and running the air raid with Mike Leach, and it looks like he's been in the system for 3 years. It looks nothing like that at USC.
Yeah, and also a lot of the plays develop slowly too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if you have inconsistent snaps, even slower.
Yeah, the snaps were again an issue last night. Someone asked.
I think they were a little bit better. Am I out of my mind? I thought they were.
There
a
were
little
still
bit
some
There were
issues
two
with
bad ones, like real low one and a real high one.
I think it is notable that JT Daniels has learned, instead of going down to a knee to field a low snap, that he has to squat. Because there was one play where they were like, oh, I think he was down on that, the broadcast, and it was like, oh no, he actually was just squatting down.
Oh, so he wasn't down? It kind of looked like he was.
No, because he actually went into basically a catcher stance, because he's learned. Like, that's a learned ability there, because that's not something the quarterback normally has to do, and he's learned that, especially it was a running play, so he knows, like, I got to make sure, even if I have to, he's basically like a hockey goalie back there sometimes. He's just reacting to where he's going and then making a play, and because he's just going to hand the ball off for those, and he did a good job of keeping his body parts off the ground so he could still hand the ball off, and I still think they lost like 1 yard because they ran straight sideways again.
And Toa even changed his technique of snapping.
Yeah.
Usually he holds it on the side with the laces, and this time he was like splitting the laces, kind of like bear clawing it, like Max Turkey used to do. Mm-hmm. But still, it's...
Yes, Keely tweeted out a picture of that.
I did a full analysis of it, and everyone was like, who cares, we're losing, but whatever. It's an observation that I found interesting. Yeah. James, I'm finally going to answer your question. He's asked it like 6 times, so I'm getting to it, James. He says, do you think the injuries are partly... I can't say it. Physiological? Not physiological. Psychological. There you go. Sorry, James. Partially why. Everything hurts more when you are losing. Thoughts?
I don't think so. I mean, I think dudes want to play. Maybe, but I think guys want to play. I think your broken ribs are not psychological.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think a concussion's psychological.
Broken ankle.
Yeah, like that stuff, it's not in your mind. Tuvaka, I think she wrote in a couple of times, JT should not play the rest of the year because the line is horrible and a mobile QB is needed now. Harvey Hyde actually kind of said that too, where like, hey, I love JT Daniels, but I just think if you're going to run this offense and you don't have a quarterback that's running, it's probably not the right offense to run. But I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, Gerard has said it a couple times that if you're going to run a read option offense, then the quarterback needs to run and pick up 6 yards a couple times a game. And they don't do that.
Yeah.
It's true. Let's see.
Why can't this team run a screen pass to the running back effectively, Jasper Smith asked.
Jasper.
They ran like a couple swing passes, I think, this time. So there was a little bit of that, but it's always like sideways and stuff. There's like a little gnat in here or something.
Yeah.
Keely let it in when she came into the office.
No.
They ran one successful swing screen to Vavai early in the game. It picked up, I think, 12 yards on like a 3rd and 19. You saw it one other time in the game, and it picked up a couple yards. But those are probably more effective screens for USC because then you have your wide receivers blocking rather than trying to get your linemen out in space and block because these offensive linemen just can't get out in space and block. They're not good at it.
Yeah.
Jaime is asking the tough existential crisis questions. He says, so what's the point of all of this if the admin doesn't care to change anything?
What's the point of all this?
We're just floating in space, watching football.
That's all we're doing.
Is anyone going to answer that?
I don't think there's really an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the point? I mean, football is an escape. It's not even.
Yeah, it should be entertainment. It's like don't make us life and death or whatever.
They're student athletes.
But we're here we're giving you our honest opinion. It's like we like all the people we talk to. I mean, everyone at USC, the coaches, like nice people all around. But we're not here to like blow smoke up your butt. We're telling you what we think. And that's we could be completely wrong, but that's that's what we're saying. So this is one of the arguments. Porter 3532. The NFL is a better assessment of talent, not the recruiting services. Ask yourself in the last 5 years, and I think it just ends. But okay, so yes, but you're looking at the teams according to the talent that's coming in. We've done all these studies. If you're a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, you're so much more likely to make the NFL than if you were a no-star. No stars make it. 2 stars make it. 3 stars make it. But you're so much more likely to make it as a 5-star. And who are the teams that are putting the most people in the NFL? USC still puts a lot of people in the NFL. They're up there with all the other teams that put a lot of dudes in the NFL. But they're not up there as far as good college teams. So that is the issue. People are like, USC puts dudes in the NFL all the time. They still probably have, I think, the most of all time or whatever. But you're not seeing that. And there's a lot of NFL guys on this current roster. So it's not, and you can have a successful team without having dudes that are going to the NFL. That's not the way USC usually does it. So I think that's a bunk argument.
If USC played better in the trenches, particularly on the offensive side in the trenches, then their talent would showcase and they play better.
Yeah.
This 4 and 5-star talent would have more opportunities to showcase that it's 4 and 5-star talent.
True that. And what did we say? All of us said this at the beginning of the season. The key to the season was how well the O-line played. And
We've said that from the beginning.
From the beginning.
And they haven't had like a good game, right? Like
Arizona's
they ran the ball well,
but that was 2 really big long runs. It's like they're not consistently racking up 8-9 yards a carry with no one getting touched. There were some really good runs in that game, and there were some, but there's not like you can run a semi through that hole. Like how many times have you heard that this year?
No. And the better teams they played, they haven't been able to run the football. It's just not been, and I think it starts with front. I think there's a lot of issues, but that's one that's been consistent throughout. And that's where, if you want to have a criticism of Clay Helton, I think at some point you have to come and say, look, I've graded out the offensive line for the first 7 weeks or whatever, and it's crap, and it needs to be better, and that's on us. And so I'm talking with Neil Callaway. Stuff's going to change, and I think that's what a lot of USC fans would like to hear. But I don't think that's going on behind closed doors, and I don't think it's certainly not going on publicly.
John wants to know why we don't see any real wheel routes every once in a while. Seems like in general they've shied away from getting the running backs involved in the passing game.
Yeah, we just kind of talked about that a little bit.
Sorry,
There's been a couple. That's fine. There've been a couple, but there's certainly not been as many. I think you can get a Stephen Card. All 3 of those running backs can catch the ball down the field and do a good job of it. It's not like when Ronald Jones it wasn't the greatest hands. All 3 of these guys could do it. So you just don't see much of it. It's that when JT Daniels is in there, it seems like the offense is relying on your 5-star quarterback and your 5-star receivers, and that's it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's partly they haven't done that because those routes usually take a little bit more time. and they were struggling so much with the offensive protection, the line protection early in the season. Maybe that's it. They've kept the running backs in a lot to block. I think that's actually part of the reason. There's a lot of routes where a tight end or a running back will stay in to help protect. I think they've done that more than they have in the past. So I think that takes away some of those routes that you would see, potentially down the field, or even just the, the option to, out in the flats or something to toss the ball to somebody.
Jorge wants us to go a more positive route. He wants to know who our team MVP of the season is so far.
Team MVP, ooh.
I mean, Porter Gustin. I mean, when he's on the field, everything was different.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, he was out this game, and what happened? How many points did he get up? A lot.
Ravenous Ute.
Oh.
We got a Ute question. He's also, it looks like a Baltimore Ravens fan. Are coaches scared of driving off their 5 stars with discipline punishments? That's interesting.
I mean, you've seen several 5 stars have to exit the team. So
Yeah.
I don't know now how much is that the coaches versus the the administration, the school saying that certain players have to leave because of violations and stuff. I don't necessarily know, but you've seen people leave.
Yeah, I don't think it's a favoritism of like only 5 stars, but I do feel like there is a lack of overall discipline as far as like punishments and things like that. We just don't see it. Like if you want to see a dude gets 2 holding calls, you're out of the game or whatever, and you're not seeing anything like that. But I don't think it's only because you're protecting 5 stars. It's just that's the mentality of this team.
Ryan, we haven't mentioned this, and we have to because it's your topic. Special teams this game actually played well. You got to give the credit where it's due.
Yeah, well, they did give up a big kickoff return, and they missed a field goal. But
Okay.
so I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but it was better, and you could say they outplayed the Utes, who do have the best special teams unit in the conference. And so Covey's muffed a couple punts before he muffed the punt. Unfortunately, USC's offense didn't cash in on that, but I don't know who got the punt block. Was it Pittman? Pittman
He does it all.
He got another one. So
Show.
yeah, he had 100. So Pittman gets 100. So 132 yards passing total between the 2 quarterbacks. 107 of those were from Michael Pittman on just 4 catches. So that's 80% of the passing offense came on 4 plays.
Oh,
And
USC had 137. Is that what you're saying?
USC had 132 passing yards, and 107 of them were Michael Pittman on 4 catches. So whatever that is, 80% is all on 4 plays, and all of them by Michael Pittman. But yeah, so the punt block that led to the Matt Fink touchdown, which I think that helped give him some confidence. It was first touchdown pass ever, so that was a big play setting that up. So the Utes normally have a really solid special teams, but I've seen a couple games early where they were bad and they missed. They had a couple of field goals blocked and stuff, but through Pac-12 they've been really good on special teams. So you got to give credit there that USC played a lot better. They didn't have any real big screw ups, the couple, but smaller ones. But yeah, pretty good.
Mick wants to know, seriously, how USC women's soccer is doing. They're number 2 in the nation and just beat Oregon 5-0. So
Crushing it.
yeah, that's a USC team that's worth paying attention to.
There's a head coach that USC went out and he was at Washington State, I believe, and Washington State out of nowhere started playing really well. They went out and got Kadani and brought him in, and he's been a terrific head coach for him. That's the type of head coach hire you need to make, and that's not what USC has done in recent years.
Since we are USCFootball.com, we could start covering the women's soccer because that's football, right?
Hey, football.
Pretty good. Maybe they can get a kicker or something. No, the kickers are fine. Reed Butteridge,
cool,
great
though.
job for him.
Yeah, Michael Brown missed a field goal, which is disappointing just because I was making my statement for him to be the MVP. Coming off the bench and been perfect, but unfortunately missed one.
Yeah.
Just wide.
Kadani, not.
Kadani, did I say it incorrectly?
I think you said Kanai.
No, I did not say Kadani.
It sounded like it, but it's all good.
Save that for the Family Feud.
Any final
I got a rapid
questions?
fire over here for ready.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
go,
rapid fire.
shotgun.
Matt Fink is injured. When did that happen? When he got destroyed in the ribs.
Yeah. But still threw a touchdown pass after that.
When these coaches say they will fix the problems, who believes them?
Not me.
Okay, then. Is Marquise Stepp redshirting his freshman year? Yes, he played a little bit in the last game against Colorado. He might see a little bit of time if there's any garbage time to come.
Yeah.
But he will.
He was
be
on the
redshirted.
trip, though. I saw him up there in Utah.
And there's always the possibility that you get injuries to running backs like you had it because they're getting hit, whenever the few times USC runs the ball. Do you see Helton firing T. Martin at all? If he does, would it be during the season?
No. And no. I think there's a very small window that Helton keeps his job but has to make changes. I think it's much more likely that they do better and he's not really forced to make any changes and probably doesn't make much as far as changes go, or the whole everyone's gone. So I think it's good. It'd be hard, I think, to like Clay Helton keep his job, but then like have to get rid of everybody.
I think that could happen.
You think it could happen?
Yeah. Depends on the pressure above him.
Maybe.
I just don't know if that's the lack of leadership around him. I think Lynn Swann would fire him or just like let him stay for another year. And I don't feel like Clay Helton's the guy that's gonna like I'm getting rid of like half my staff. He did that when he got hired, but those weren't his guys. These are his guys.
We'll see, but I don't think that would be during the season. That's one of the And Trojans said, guys, let's be realistic. USC isn't going to fire a coach midseason. It isn't happening. Well, what about Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian, the last two head coaches you had? They both
There's a precedent there, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen now.
Abhijit asked, does Helton know that these practices have to be better? And Herman also said, does Coach Helton know he has staff problems? I think he knows. I don't know if he knows the practices have to be better. I would think he would know that.
This is a weird thing. It's this hill that they're continuing to die on
Yes.
that I don't understand. I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's pride, if they just don't want to admit that at this point of the season they need to change things, but I don't know. I asked this on the emergency podcast last night. They get paid money to do this. Like, they look at this much more than we do, and yet it doesn't seem like they're seeing what we all see. So I don't understand what happens there.
And I think so. Yes, a lot of coaches can be stubborn, and you have a philosophy and you have a plan. And I think a lot of it probably came from Clay Helton's dad, Kim, and told him, "You stick to your guns and do what you do." And that this is what he does. And we saw in 2016. Everyone wanted him fired after they were 1-3, and then there's a crazy turnaround. So I think in his mind, he's already seen it where everyone was down on me, and I just stuck to my guns, and we won the Rose Bowl. Now, a lot of people would argue, well, that was Sam Darnold that just won the Rose Bowl, not your philosophy of what you were doing. But there's something in his mind there that he showed, like, hey, when I stuck to my guns, we end up making it to the Rose Bowl. So no matter how bad it gets, I don't think you're going to see him say, yeah, we got to change all this stuff.
And similar to a question we just got, but is Helton's hesitancy to relieve T. Martin of his duties tied to his recruiting prowess?
He's the best recruiter. I mean, that's the other issue is if half of your staff doesn't really care to recruit, it's hard to get rid of one of them that does. So there's probably something. You're a best recruiter? Yeah. I mean, is Gavin Morris one of your best recruiters? He's not like a full-time staff member. That's a problem. So that's another part of the whole staff construction. Pete Carroll would never have one guy on the staff that wasn't a big recruiter, let alone half of them. So that's philosophy. Those are decisions that were made a couple years ago, and then you see the problems coming later on. Like every bad decision you make you don't get slapped immediately, but they kind of come to fruition after a while.
John asks, has Clay Helton looked and sounded depressed to you the past few days? We can check in with Paris and Nikki if you guys don't have the answer.
I wouldn't say he sounded all that depressed on the conference call. It was kind of somber but serious. Like
somber
serious.
is a good word for it.
Yeah.
I think somber is a good word for it.
Interesting.
Chris says, why does JT underthrow every deep ball? Well, the times when he overthrows it is when you don't catch the ball to Velus Jones, you don't catch the ball on Monroe, you don't blow out Colorado. At least if you underthrow it, they have a chance, and especially with a guy like Pittman, because you saw what happens. Pittman will go up and make the catch.
I love that's what that's his hill to die on. It's about deep balls being underthrown. Like not all the other crap that's going on. It's like the guy that's out with a concussion who's completed all these deep passes and that's the only offense they have, you're going to complain about the deep ball. So
Daniel, O-line has been a weakness for a few years now. Why can't they hit every practice? It's not going to make them worse. It's probably a good point.
That is a good point. They've had the same coach for 3 years and you're seeing the same problem. So I'm not saying that that's what the issue is, but that's what the issue is.
Why on earth is Toa still starting more botched snaps last night? He's their veteran. He's the guy they trust.
Yeah.
How hands-on is Callaway, Jay Smith asks?
I like this YouTube voice you're giving. It's like a frantic voice.
Trying to go fast.
Yeah.
We're already over, Shotgun.
How hands-on is Callaway?
Hands on what? Like, I mean.
He yells a lot.
Yeah.
When we get to see them close up, like in the Coliseum.
We don't really get to see him all that close all the time.
But when we do, he yells.
I think it's worth asking how involved is the offensive line during games? I know Chris Trevino tweeted this, that they have a 1,000-yard stare. They all kind of just sit in their chairs. And it's kind of a stark contrast compared to the defense, who really huddles around, is very active and communicative, and the O-line kind of just sits there. So I don't know how that will actually improve game to game, but I feel like it's worth.
They draw stuff up and they talk a lot.
I'm not saying they don't do anything, but I'm just saying the contrast is pretty stark.
I mean, the Arizona game, it was pretty notable when Neil Callaway tried to bring all his troops together, and he only had 3 linemen. And he yelled at Austin Jackson, get over here. And John Baxter's like, no, he's got special team stuff. I need to talk to him about this punt. And then he's Chuma, come here, Chuma. And Chuma's getting stretched out for his hip injury that ends up making him leave later in the game. So if you hear me like, oh my, we're not playing well, I can't even get all the guys over here on the bench.
I think with the offensive line and the defensive players, you got like Christian Rector, who's like trying to ball out there and doing like special team stuff. And like, I think some point you have to say, look, the defense is out there too long. Stop doing the special team stuff. The offensive line is underperforming. They don't get to be on special teams. Like, just no. Like, focus on blocking. When Cedric Ware carries the ball.
I don't know why Austin Jackson continues to be on special teams. It's too much for him. Like he plays most of he has the highest snap count usually per week.
He leads the team this season right now. So.
He's not going to this time because the offense only had like 61 snaps and the defense had like 84.
He'll play 20 on special teams. He'll be right up there with him.
Okay.
And he got tired towards the end when USC was actually driving the ball with Matt Fink. He actually was tapping his helmet like, I need to come in, and they were like, nope, you're in there, and he was like, okay, but yeah.
All right, I got some more, but 2 more questions real quick.
Shotgun.
Do we have a glue guy on offense? That's a good question.
A glue guy?
Trek?
Great question.
Glue guy on offense.
He spouts out comments.
Nice. Oh, by the way, it's 81 plays for Utah, 54 for the offense.
Maybe
so
maybe
he's not going to be up there this time. Yeah.
Glue guy?
I
don't know.
If it's not going to be right away, then no.
The answer is no. And last one, will the old school culture of SC return with a coaching change, or will it be more new school BS? If there is a coaching change, which there has not been a coaching change, I don't know if you guys know this, unfortunately, but if there is a coaching change, that would just depend on the administration and what direction they decide to go in.
Who do you hire? Do you hire someone that's an alpha? Do you hire someone that other people want? That's the thing. Don't hire someone that other people don't want that you feel like is good for USC. Hire someone that other people want, and then there will be a culture change.
Maybe a lambda.
A lambda? Not a beta?
I don't know anything about
sorority.
That stuff.
Hugh has a proposition. He says, if USC loses 2 more games this year, I'll take the entire USC football staff out to dinner if Clay Helton is still the head coach next year.
Oh,
we'll
nice.
take you up on it, Hugh.
How about take us to dinner?
That's what he said. He's taking us to
I thought
USCfootball.com staff.
I thought you said
USC.com.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
It's like, you're going to take that.
Bad time to chop
Take
that
a bunch of people that make like hundreds of thousands a year out. Like, take us up.
No.
I'm down. I like free food.
I do too.
Peace.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Thanks.
We'll see what happens this week if there's any change, and a lot of banged up players. So we'll see who's actually healthy in practice. They had 16 guys out last week. We'll see how many are practicing tomorrow or on Tuesday when they get back on the field.
Yeah, and we might have a special live show on Tuesday. So check back, probably middle of the day. Maybe a big national media personality is going to join us again. So we're not naming any names, but that's the.
He did say again, so that's a key word.
Oh crap!
Sorry.
No, we're talking Colin Cowherd. He's probably going to do a show on Tuesday. He said he would, so we'll try to set it up. I think it'll be 1:00. But we're just so you guys know, we're setting something up there. If you want to get in, he was really good. Everyone loved actually. I was sitting in front of Christian Rector's mom on the plane, and she brought up specifically, I loved when Colin Cowherd was on your show. That was great. He was awesome. So he had a really kind of risque tweet about USC's coaching staff, I guess. I don't know, risque is like, but yeah.
Cheeky?
He said, like basically something about like inquire, if you want to be a Pac-12 head coach, inquire with Lynn Swan or something like that. So he likes Clay Helton a lot, but I don't think he's a big fan of the job that they've been doing. So we're going to try to get him on Tuesday. So check back
people.
for that. Yeah.
So be ready. Alert for our
Alert.
live show. But that's going to wrap it up. That is Shotgun Spratling. That is Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys on Tuesday.